In this video, we're going to look at different ways of cropping and clipping shapefiles. I have a couple methods that I want to show you, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is set my working directory, which is just session, set working directory, and I'm going to set it to source file location. My script is saved in the same folder as my shapefiles, so that's why I was able to do source file location. Just point if it's not, point your directory to wherever your data is saved, and you should be good to go. So the next thing we're going to do is import the libraries that we need. The first library that we need is the SF library. And the second library that we need is the dplyr library, and that's all we need for this tutorial. Next, we want to import the shapefiles that we need. So I have two shapefiles. One I'm going to call large.shapefile, very creative. And it's called, in the brackets, I'm just going to input the name of the shapefile, which for me is called larger shape. And then I also have a smaller shapefile, which I'm going to call small.shape. And the function that we're using is called st_read. And you just input the name of your shapefile within quotation marks to import it. Now that we've imported both of our shapefiles, let's take a look at what we have for each. So when you import a shapefile using the SF library, the spatial features library, it gives you a breakdown of each geometry. So for the larger shape, we have it's a polygon. We have the WGS84 coordinate reference system, and then you can see the bounding box. Let's plot it. Take a look. Oh, large. So it's just this shape here, and I also want to show you what it looks like in QGIS, but we'll wait for that. Let's take a look at the second feature. So the second feature has three different attributes, three different shapes, and you'll see that when we imported it, it has three features. So there's three shapes, and then there's one field. It doesn't have any other details other than the geometry. So let's take a look at what these shapes look like on QGIS, because I want to show you what they look like on top of each other. So we have QGIS open. I'm just going to drag in some base tiles, and then we'll grab the layers. I often use QGIS to look at some of my data. I just find that it's really easy to use and a great way of just quickly looking at what you're working with. So here's the larger shape on the outside, in the green polygon, and then we have three smaller shapes. So the first thing we're going to do is crop the larger shape to the three smaller shapes. So let's go back into R, and the function we're going to use is called st_crop. So I'm going to call it this large cropped. And like I said, we're going to use a function called st_crop, and then you'll see that it takes in two arguments. We can see some more details here. So it takes two arguments, x and y. The first one is an SF object, and the second one is either a bounding box or an SF object. So we're going to crop the larger one to the smaller one. So it's large.shape and small.shape. We get a warning message here, but we can ignore that. So now we have a large cropped shapefile or vector variable. And you can see that it's just one feature, which makes sense because our large shapefile was only one feature. Let's plot it. Okay, so you see some sort of polygon here, but it's not exactly clear what happened when it cropped. So what I'm going to do is actually export it, and then we can take a look at the polygon in QGIS. So we're going to use a function called stwrite, and that's what you use to export simple feature variables to shapefiles. So the first thing we need to do is specify what object we want to export, and for us that's large cropped. And then I'm also going to give the file name. So we're going to call it object1. Actually, you know what? Let's call it large cropped. Let's keep it simple. Shapefile. Let's run that. And then we can go open up QGIS, and we're going to pull open the shapefile. Okay, so there you go. You can see this is what we created in R, and let's explore what's happening here. So I'm going to move this new shapefile into the middle. So we have the original larger shapefile, we have the 3 smaller shapes, and then we have this new one. And essentially what happened here was that we cropped the larger shapefile to the bounding box of our smaller shapefiles. So it took the minimum, maximum points for both the y-axis and the x-axis, and then it cropped to that bounding box, right? So if that's what you're looking for from your shapefiles, that's fine. The stcrop function will do that effectively for you. What if you only wanted to crop to one of the circles? Then how would you do it? It's very simple. Let's go back to R. What you need to do is figure out which circle you want to crop to, and then specify that in your stcrop function. So let's create a second variable, cropped to 1. So this is a rather ugly variable name, but that's okay. We're going to use the stcrop function again, but instead of small shapefile, we need to specify which circle, which one of these smaller circles we want to crop to. So the way we do that, let's clear the console. The way we do that is by just using column index values. So here is the small shapefile variable name. I'm going to specify the first circle, and you'll see when you use the row index, not column index, the row index, you can see that it's only pulling up one polygon, not all 3. So if I do number 2, it'll pull open the second polygon. So for this second shapefile, I'm just going to specify the large shapefile because that's what we want to crop. And then I'm going to specify the smaller shapefile. I'm going to use a column index of 3. So I'm cropping it to the 3rd polygon. And sorry, row index, not column index. We're cropping to the 3rd polygon in the small shapefile. So let's run that. So now if we take a look at this variable here, we'll run it in the console. You'll see that it's still 1 polygon, but now it's only been cropped to one of the small shapefile elements, not the whole thing. Let's export this, and we'll take a look at it on QGIS. If you've never used QGIS before, please let me know. I can create a video on how to use it. It's very straightforward. So if you're curious to know more about that, just let me know. So we're going to export this element here, this shapefile here, and we'll change the name. And we'll pull it up on QGIS and see what it looks like. So you can see here, let me keep this, okay. So you can see here our new shapefile, large cropped to 1, is right over here. And if I just toggle it on and off, you can see that it's only cropped to the 3rd element, which for this smaller shapefile is this element over here. Okay, so let's talk about what we need to do if we only want to erase the parts of the large shapefile that intersect with a small shapefile. So kind of like a Swiss cheese shape, we want to remove everything that the small shape overlaps. So to do that, we need to do two things. First, we need to combine all elements of the small shapefile into one simple feature, because right now, if we take a look at the small shapefile, you can see it's 3 different features. We don't want that. We want to erase everything at once, and so because of that, we're going to combine everything into one simple feature. I'm going to actually copy this line of code, and we're going to use a function called st_combine. We don't need to input any arguments. We're just going to add it to the import function stread, and this will allow us to combine all elements into one. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here you can see that we only have one feature now, and it's a multi-polygon. And that's what we want when we crop the larger shapefile into that Swiss cheese pattern. So now what we can do is use a second function called st_difference. And in here, we're going to input the large shapefile and then our new and improved smaller shapefile, which is now only one feature. So let's run that. And you can see we now end up with one polygon, which is exactly what we want. We're gonna call this large shape, we'll call it large shapefile difference. Okay, so let's export this to QGIS. I'm going to copy this line of code here, and I'm just going to change the variable name to large shape diff, and we're going to change this name here as well to large shape diff. Before we run that, let's plot it in R and see what we get. Large shape, and now you can see you have that Swiss cheese pattern. So let's export this once more, pull it into QGIS, and there you go. Let's remove a couple of these. Okay, so now you can see, I'll change the color as well, actually. We'll make it like a red pattern. There. So if we toggle on and off, you can see now that we've erased all parts of the larger shapefile that intersect with the smaller shapefile. And if I get rid of everything but that final file, you can see we have that Swiss cheese pattern. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. If you found it helpful, let me know what else you'd like to see, and please feel free to subscribe if you want to receive more videos on how to work with spatial data in R. Good luck.